1775. The American Revolutionary War began as the American colonies sought to detach from England and its oppressive monarchy. Though many reasons are cited for the revolution, one in particular sticks out as a prime cause: that King George III of England outlawed the interest-free, independent currency the colonies were producing themselves, in turn forcing them to borrow money from the Central Bank of England, immediately creating economic hardship and despair. In the words of Peter Cooper, former vice president of the New York Board of Currency, after Franklin had explained to the British government as the real cause of prosperity, they immediately passed laws forbidding the payment of taxes in that money. This produced such great inconvenience and misery to the people that it was the principal cause of the Revolution. In 1783, America won its independence from England. However, its battle against the central bank concept and the corrupt, power-hungry mentality associated with it had just begun. So what is a central bank? A central bank is an institution that issues and regulates the currency of an entire nation. Based on historical precedent, the typical powers inherent in central banking practice include the control of interest rates and the expansion and contraction of the money supply itself. Now, the central bank does not simply issue money to the government, it loans it to them with interest. Then, through the mechanisms of increasing and decreasing the supply of money, the central bank essentially regulates the value of the currency issued. It is critical to understand that the entire structure of this system can only produce one thing in the long run: debt. It doesn't take a lot of ingenuity to figure this scam out, for nearly every single dollar produced by both the central bank and its regulated commercial banks is loaned at interest. That means every dollar produced is actually the dollar plus a certain percentage of debt based on that dollar. And since the banking system has the monopoly of the production of the currency, and they loan each dollar out with an immediate debt attached to it, where does the money to pay for the debt come from? It can only come from the banks again, which means the banking system has to perpetually increase its money supply to temporarily cover the outstanding debt created, which in turn, since that new money is loaned out at interest as well, creates even more debt. The end result of this system is essentially slavery, for it is technically impossible for a government, and thus the public, to ever come out of the self-generating debt.
One thing that I did learn that as far as about occupation is that it's very similar to the sit-ins that were held during the Civil Rights era. The idea of occupation is of civil disobedience. It's a way of achieving change. They also, typically in occupation movements, they typically try to find a place that's symbolic, just like Wall Street is symbolic, other financial crisis. And, they will, occupy that in order to gain some attention, bring some attention to the situation, as a way to, I guess, get people to kind of wake up. Get them more interested in it, to try to seek some type of change. And Occupy Wall Street does want some change in Wall Street. And a little bit about Occupy Wall Street. The movement was started in September. It was started by a group out of Canada called Adbusters. The movement started in Wall Street, but is now spread to over 100 cities, 1,500 cities worldwide. The group Adbusters, they were very much influenced by the protests that were held out in Egypt, the Arab Spring revolutions that were going on, particularly the ones that were in Tahrir Square, where the Egyptians, started out numbers 50,000, and it swelled to about 300,000 protesters that occupied Tahrir Square until President Mubarak stepped down from office. That was a very bright moment, in the history of the world. Everyone's attention was focused on Egypt. It was a non-violent revolution. There wasn't, much bloodshed, unlike there is in Syria, where people continue being killed, daily by, the Assad regime. But this revolution, the bloodshed wasn't, to that effect, to that level. And the people, wanted change. They demanded change, and they gave up, jobs, family time. To sit out in Tahrir Square and force the government to do something. That's people using their power to achieve change, and you have to respect that. One thing that they did in the Arab Revolution and that they're doing with the Occupy movement is utilizing social media like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube in order to get the message across. And I think that's very important, is that, this generation has a lot of access to technology, and, we definitely need to use it, as a tool to preach change, to make changes, to let people know about information, about events, about different rallies, different ways, they can, achieve change in their community. So it's definitely something that is to be noted by different agencies. The slogan though Occupy Wall Street has had is that we are the 99%, and it's addressing the income inequality in this country, and it's kind of, positioned in the 99% against the 1%, which are the people who control, most of the economic resources, the physical resources in this country and throughout the world. The Occupy movement, as far as its structure, I'm using this based off of Occupy Richmond too, is that it's a non-hierarchical structure. It's a structure that's leaderless. It's one where, the people are able to voice their concerns, are able to amend, they constantly amend the bylaws, and able to, get things heard and done in a more efficient, organized manner. I have attended some General Assemblies, and it's a very neat thing to see. And I encourage you all to, go to a General Assembly and just to see how the workings of the organization, is. Also, as far as there's consensus within the movement, as far as some members, as far as things that they want, there's so many different groups that comprise the Occupy movement. There's the GBL, the gay, lesbian, bisexual community. There's anarchists. There are liberals, Democrats, Latinos. There's so many different groups under that umbrella that everyone has different needs to want to get addressed. But as far as a consensus, most people tend to want the same basic things: better jobs, equal distribution of wealth, reforming banks, a reduction on the influence of corporations on the political process. And that's a really big one, is that these corporations, these super PACs, these big lobbies are influencing the political process, the democratic process, and they're coalescing with these politicians to get legislation passed that's making it easier for them to make more money, to keep that 1% of the wealth. I'm sorry, not to keep them in the 1%, and while everyone else struggles day to day because of the economic climate. As far as the demographics, that's one thing that really struck me, is the demographics of the Occupy movement. Going to different Occupy Richmond programs, off the bat you can kind of see that it's a majority white crowd. There are some minorities there, some homeless people there, people of all different backgrounds, but majority of them are Caucasian. The lack of African Americans kind of trouble me, because typically in social movements in this country, black people are usually at the forefront. And a lot of the issues in our communities that are being addressed are issues that are affecting us. So it really kind of troubled me not to see a lot of African Americans out there. And as far as statistics wise, it's only about almost less than 2% of the movement is comprised of African Americans, and Latinos doesn't make a very large percentage either. So it's just very interesting seeing that numbers. Also, there have been some criticisms of the Occupy Wall Street movement. There's been some criticism about the sanitation, and that's even coming from homeless people who live, out in those parks that they're occupying.
Yeah, I mean, they do look a little bit like disheveled and stuff like that. But we're operating under man.
All right, let me ask you something.
We're operating under man
All right,
constrictions
let me ask you
here.
something.
You know what I mean?
Let me ask you something. Is that an excuse to live like that?
No, I'm not
All
saying.
right, let me
I'm
ask
not
you
trying to
something.
make
How long you
excuses.
been here?
I'm not.
How long you been here?
In New York?
No, here in this park.
I'm not staying here, but I'm down here working 16
All right.
hours a
Can
day.
I ask you a question? I don't need to hear all that. How long have you slept in this park?
Great. I just told you the answer to that.
What is it?
I haven't been sleeping.
Never.
since then.
Never slept in this park.
No, but I'm staying.
Okay.
up there.
Now listen.
That's because.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Listen to me.
All right.
You never slept in this park. You don't understand where I'm coming from. And let me give you a news flash. Let me give you a news flash.
Okay.
Last week, we was almost thrown out of here because they said this is unfit and they was gonna throw us all out to clean this shit up. You know why? Because people don't clean behind themselves. So guess what? Last week, when it came to that point, now everybody want to clean and tighten up. You know why? Because they was gonna throw us out of here. Now, I respect my people, man. I respect homeless people because I'm homeless myself. And because you're homeless, you don't have to live like that. Tighten your shit up.
You know, a lot of those homeless people don't have apartments or homes to go to, and they're being evicted, you know, from the only home that they have because of the attention the Occupy movement is bringing to the area. So a lot of them are complaining, you know, and people are dirtying the park up, and you know, it's kind of making things difficult for them. And that's not all homeless people. Some homeless people have welcomed the Occupy movement. They have, you know, open arms, but there are others, you know, that have complained. There's also been complaints of violence, sexual assault, just things that you probably would see on any place where you have a lot of people in one area, you know, living in small confines.
I've been here for 3 months, and I haven't been able to sleep like these lazy ass motherfuckers. I don't give a who's in the tent. You want to fight? You want to get up?
But protesters are no wimps. Some even fight back. The homeless man was quickly escorted out of the park.
He's mentally ill. He's a police agent. He's a Bloomberg agent.
Oh, he's a Bloomberg agent.
Disturbing and disrupting the protest. He's not a normal guy.